It's time to dive into some crypto conspiracy theories.
I'm Rob.
I'm John.
And this is the Mint One podcast,
where we talk all things Web3 and the rise of blockchain gaming.
So John, this week we're getting a bit conspiratorial.
We are. It's time to dive into some of the biggest conspiracy theories in the cryptocurrency space.
Okay, before we get started, I need to shill, but not normal crypto shilling, which is disgusting. I need to shill our podcast, which is less disgusting. Please follow, like, subscribe, comment, 5-star review on Apple. All of the stuff. You know I'm bad at this. We are in a crypto winter, and we need your help to get more people to hear us, to listen to us. And we're not one of those podcasts that just talks about the next moonshot and all that rubbish. If we find stuff that we think's bad, we talk about it, and we have plenty in our back catalogue to prove it. So if you want to listen to Web3 without any filters, without any rubbish, you should subscribe to us and leave us a review. We've had some nice reviews lately and some nice comments and some suggestions for episodes. One we nearly did, and then we realised it would be the most negative episode in history after we started researching the topic. So, but keep sending them, because eventually you'll get one. We have done one or two, I think, before that people have suggested, and we're always up for more. Okay, right. So this episode is an interesting one. We weren't sure, so we were meant to have a guest on today who couldn't make it, unfortunately, and had to reschedule. So we decided to look for a new topic to talk about. And I love a conspiracy theory, and it just made a lot of sense that we go into conspiracy theories. But there's a little twist on this episode, and you might think it's unpreparedness, but I'm going to tell you, through rebranding, that it's actually the angle for this episode, and that is we're both going in blind to this episode. We don't know what these conspiracy theories are. I think there's about 12 that I've copied that are the biggest, the most well-known, the most well-founded, maybe, I don't know. But we've got 12. We don't know what they are. I've got them in a document which I've just opened. And with no further ado, let's get into the first one. Right. That's weird. That was a lot of talking. Right. It's a podcast, I've got to talk. Right. So, control by unknown entities. This is number one on this list, but I don't think it's actually, I don't think it's in order of size. It's just, whatever. So the description is, some people believe that cryptocurrencies and blockchain networks are actually controlled or excessively influenced by unknown entities or powerful insiders, in brackets whales, despite the decentralization claims.
See, that's one of those that's always going to float around until Satoshi Nakamoto or whoever pops his head up above the parapet, which is never going to happen.
I've already seen his name on this list. I'm not reading it, but I've seen his name.
So, I mean, there's been rumours for a while that obviously after 2008, everyone had this distrust of the financial system, so why not create a new one and have people believe in that instead? I don't think it's one I believe in myself per se, but I can understand why other people might do, especially if you're heavily conspiratorially minded, which I think in today's day and age is very easy to do.
So, it is, yeah.
How about you?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about, really. Obviously, not all blockchain networks are controlled by unknown entities. So they must be talking primarily about Bitcoin. Which... in a way, it was created by an unknown entity, so you could argue that it's controlled. When it comes to, I think the most interesting, compelling point, perhaps, on this is whales. They do have a lot of control, whether it's the control they mean. I mean, they can move the needle whenever they want, by selling off, by buying lots. We see it all the time where spikes happen. It happened with Immutable, didn't it? Was it the South Korean company wanted to get involved in Immutable, and they bought a ton of it, and they spiked the price like 20% instantly. So whales have a lot of power over some of it, but the thing that makes that kind of irrelevant is despite the decentralization claim. So it's basically saying that it's controlled centrally and is masquerading as decentralized. I don't know there's much evidence for that. I'd be interested to see if there was perhaps something, but I read Web3, crypto, NFT, blockchain stuff. every day. I mean, podcasts, news sites. I have a rotation every morning. I'm pretty deep in this. I'd be surprised if there was evidence for that I had missed, because like I said in that little shilly bit, I don't think either of us are like these sort of cult followers that just believes crypto's all good. I don't. I think there's lots of negatives to it. I just think overall on the balance it's a positive. So yeah, I'm not sure. I can see why they think that, and I think it probably does come back to Satoshi.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly whales do have an impact on the market, but that's the same with virtually everything.
Yeah.
Like whoever's got the most of X has more control. So yeah, I don't think it's distinctly a crypto problem. Do I think it's some kind of centralized control from the big bad behind the scenes? No, but who knows?
Okay. Well, let's just go to the Satoshi one.
Sure.
Because it makes sense. It follows on quite nicely from that. So I just accidentally scrolled to the final page and saw the title of the last one, which is incredible. We're saving that for last. So the Satoshi one, Satoshi Nakamoto, who, for any of you that don't know, is the creator of the Bitcoin white paper and the father of essentially crypto, the father of blockchain, the father of Bitcoin. His true identity, whether that's a pseudonym, we don't know. We don't know if it's a company. We don't know if it's a person. Nobody knows anything about him, which is wild in today's day and age, particularly with how successful Bitcoin has been. So it's probably crypto's biggest mystery, and an interesting one, because there's so little evidence as to who it is. There's also that guy that claims he is him, but then won't move any of the Bitcoin that was first minted to prove it. So we could just rule him out. Right, so this one is Satoshi Nakamoto's true identity. There's always been speculation around the true identity of Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. Some conspiracy theories suggest that Nakamoto is either a known tech mogul, a group of companies, or a government entity. Government entity, that's a big claim.
Yeah.
I mean, they would be, whatever government entity that would be, they are playing the longest, smartest game in history.
I mean, this would have to be a very kind of deep state conspiracy theory if we've currently got the SEC like doing everything in their power to try and fight blockchain as an industry.
Yeah.
If we've got, I mean, if it's going to be a government, it would have to be the US. And, if the US is spending that much money to fight court cases against effectively itself, that would be a monumental waste of time and money. Yeah. So I'm not too sure about that. The idea of it being kind of the product of a company or of a group of existing tech moguls it's not terribly far-fetched. We had the PayPal mafia back in the late 90s, so it...
Really good YouTube documentary on that, by the way.
Yeah, it would make sense if there's like the Bitcoin mafia of the late noughts. That sounds strange to say, but you know what I mean. Late noughts, early tens, and there is kind of a Bitcoin mafia. There's a bunch of people that were around at the start of Bitcoin that have gone on to create, Ethereum and then other chains and other protocols and other companies. So. But we've just never been able to find the kingpin, which is Satoshi. It's strange because I think it's one of the first not inscriptions, but one of the first blocks has that newspaper title from like a UK newspaper around the time. So there's a lot of rumors that Satoshi or whoever Satoshi is, or a part of Satoshi is perhaps British. But yeah, it's difficult to. You would really have to get into the nitty-gritty of every single message that Satoshi Nakamoto ever said, and then be a trained linguist to assess every word he ever said and whether things make sense, and always there words from a different dialect being spoken and all this kind of thing. It's bizarre, but it's just all part of the mystery and mystique of who or what Satoshi Nakamoto is.
I think I find it hard to believe that a government agency is the creator, although obviously the internet kind of traces back to the Americans creating it. But this feels like I don't know. It feels like it's either run out of control, or they just this isn't going to plan at all, or they weren't involved. So the crypto conspiracy theories we're using here, I've got a list of 10, but then I'm also using one article by dailycoin.com, which had some interesting stuff in it. And they also had a bit on Bitcoin is controlled by the deep state, where the reason I like this article is it's very reasonable. It's not really buying into much of it, and it's just sort of giving objective details. But apparently, in 2013, there was a website claiming that the CIA created Bitcoin. The website was called CIAproject.org, and it got taken down. And that it suggested that the CIA created Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as tools to move illegal funds. I
guess my only kind of complaint to that is I don't think the CIA needs to invent a whole new type of currency to move money illegally. Yeah, they've been doing that for decades.
It does seem like a stretch. I mean, but it's a conspiracy theory, so I guess they're all going to feel like a stretch. And basically, most of the evidence around this. Okay. According to conspiracy theorists, 4 pieces of evidence link Bitcoin to the CIA. Let's go. The first is the name Satoshi Nakamoto, which essentially translates to Central Intelligence.
What?
I mean, firstly, if that's true, why would they do that? Well, I mean, that's just... I don't know if that's true, but why would they call themselves Central Intelligence in Japanese? It's just... the second is how careful Satoshi was with his identity. The third is that Satoshi is likely to be more than one person, hence it's believed to be a pseudonym used by a group. I mean, I'm not following the logic train there. And the final, fourth one is that Bitcoin Talk, a forum Satoshi regularly posted on, censors talk about Bitcoin being a CIA project. And then there's a little asterisk that says, the last claim has been proven to be false, though. Bitcoin Talk censors threads, but some threads about the CIA sponsoring Bitcoin still exist. So I'm comfortable to rule that one out. You can tag me in that in the future if they get proven. But that feels particularly conspiratorial, even for conspiracy theories. Okay, the next one, I think you and I will have a few things to say on, actually, just by the title alone. 2, NFT, this is technically 3, I jumped ahead. NFT market manipulation. There are theories that the NFT market is heavily manipulated, with certain individuals driving up prices for worthless assets or laundering money. Some believe this hype is created to benefit those who got in early and have power to manipulate the market. I don't know how much that's a conspiracy theory, to be honest. No. You could definitely prove at least several cases of that.
Yeah, I mean, if someone had just woken up from a coma and they just found out what NFTs are and what the current state of the market is, nobody would have ever believed that Beeple's 5,000 days sold for near $70 million.
But that's like, that was... So, sorry to jump in. That's one of the only examples that I think was maybe worth that, because that was a decade of his digital art. And it was a pioneering use case of NFTs. I agree with everything you're saying, but that's one of the only examples that I would just flinch a little, because he spent more than 10 years. It was like he spent like 20 years making art every single day that he couldn't really sell because it was digital, so it couldn't exist natively and owned. And then blockchain enabled that, and then he sold the whole lot. Obviously 70 million is insane. I'm not saying that, but I do think that that's probably one of the few use cases where you'd say this is why it's worth that. Whereas if you look, carry on your point, because you're just going to say what I'm going to say anyway.
Well, I think the people that came in early for Bored Apes, for example, like, let's say you did mint a Bored Ape for 0.08 ETH, and then all of a sudden the price keeps going up, or, all of a sudden it's 1 ETH and 2 ETH and 3 ETH, and of course you're going to hold on to it. Of course you're then going to do whatever you can to help drive that price up, or, but basically anyone that ever held a punk or an ape, if they were public about it, could do things that would influence the price of them. I think it's just obvious. quite frankly.
There's a lot of evidence for this. I mean, how much wash trading have we seen?
God, crazy amounts. I know for the longest time I was using NFT Go as on my analytics sites, and they would filter out what they suspected were wash trades. But the washes were so obvious. Like people selling individual NFTs for like 3,000 ETH. Like, no.
It's really dodgy. So for anyone that doesn't know what wash trading with NFTs is, I mean, you probably don't know what wash trading is, otherwise you'd be able to infer what I mean. But wash trading is essentially where you're buying and selling something to yourself or your friends to raise the trading volume and the profile of that NFT collection. So people, if you created an NFT collection, how are you going to get it seen in a sea of NFT collections? If you happen to have 3,000 ETH sitting in a wallet, you could buy all of them for 5 ETH, and you'd have to pay the market fees, but it'd be worth it because it'd raise a profile, and you'd end up on analytics sites. You'd end up on the most trade collection of the day, or the most expensive collection, or a collection that's spiking in value. And then people were like, oh, this is going to be the next Bored Ape, and then they were buying it.
I mean, I'm almost certain that all of the punks and apes that are in museums were just done as tax write-offs. Like somebody buying a punk for 250k, donating it to a museum, and then writing that off.
Well, that happened with traditional art, didn't it?
Exactly. There's so many comparisons between the price manipulation in the traditional art world and what happened at the height of the market in 2021. It was so many people doing the same thing. I mean, it was such an easy thing to do. Plus, there was a benefit to anyone doing it. For example, all the celebrities that got in on it. You know, you buy this digital asset, that means you're now cool, you're with it, you're up to date. Purely as you being a celebrity doing that drives the price up, then you can act like the savior by donating it to some museum or doing whatever the hell you want to do with it. Put it down as a tax write-off and move on, which I think is what most of them did. So
certainly some of them. It's so hard to tell who was legit, but I think as far as conspiracy theories go, that one so far has the most credence and evidence by far.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Next one, I don't even like the title, but Bitcoin and energy consumption. Although it's a known fact that Bitcoin mining consumes a lot of energy, some conspiracy theories exaggerate these claims, suggesting that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are part of a larger global plot to consume the world's energy supplies or exacerbate the energy crisis. I knew that was going to go off somewhere wild. I didn't think it was going to go that wild.
No. Is the response. Like that's even more deep state than thinking that the US government created Bitcoin.
That really is a reach. I mean, so it's true that the energy usage claims were exaggerated. In some mainstream media as well, some pretty big publications were publishing incorrect data. Or that not that it's not green. But it wasn't as bad as people were making out, and it's got nothing but better ever since. But as trying to exacerbate the energy crisis, that's probably such a deep point that I can't even comprehend what political motive that would be, or who would win, and who's. I mean, that's just beyond my station and seems insane. So
bit far-fetched.
Yeah, we'll move on to number 4, which is technically 5. Global surveillance.
Jesus.
Here's the direction.
Well, hey, we've already talked about WorldCoin, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, we are willfully allowing ourselves to be surveilled. Right. Some individuals theorize that the push towards digital currency, especially by governments like China's digital yuan. Really? I didn't know they would. Okay. Is not just about efficiency or combating corruption, but is a step towards total financial surveillance by companies or even global entities. So there's a case, a lot of people make a case for this when it comes to cashless society. In fact, my girlfriend got in a taxi the other day, and the taxi driver scoffed at having to take card for a small payment. To which I got annoyed because, I mean, I haven't had cash on my person for years. I don't need to carry cash. Like, what else do you want me to carry? Some mead or corn? Should we start trading and bartering? It's ridiculous. And he really got the ump, and he was like, I don't want to have to, whatever. And he's like, the only reason they're doing this is so that they can track the money moving around. And I didn't say this, but I did want to say, you're going to have to pay the correct amount of tax for how much you've been earning. That's essentially what's happening. So I guess there's undercurrents of that being true, because it does benefit the government to know exactly how much money is moving around between entities. Mm-hmm. I don't think the governments have been mostly resistant to crypto, but then again, maybe that's because they don't have access. Well, it's blockchain, so it is public. I don't know. I'm conflicted on that one.
I mean, there was talk about the UK government wanted to create a virtual pound, and then also the Japanese government wanted to create a digital yen. It's weird to me because from a practical point of view, most money nowadays is purely digital. It's just numbers moving around in spreadsheets. The actual physical currency stays in vaults, and so we're not shipping gold bars around the planet anymore. We don't have to. So it's bizarre. In terms of governments wanting to make their own digital currencies, I don't think it's that far-fetched. But
no, I don't.
It being part of some kind of conspiracy, not really. It's just more convenient. Well, digital money is more convenient than paper money. Like, you don't have to cut down. I mean, I know we use cotton for our notes now.
I can't remember.
So I can't remember. But yeah, it's you're using far less natural resources. It costs far less, etc., 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 to have digital money than just physical. And without going too far off the other end, the idea of value and money is just a human construct anyway. It's not like a one-to-one. Because the planet has $10 trillion, we have $10 trillion of paper notes or gold bars worth that amount. But anyway, it's another one that I think's a bit too far-fetched for me. Although I see where some people might be coming from.
I love that I have to, off the back of you saying that was a bit too far-fetched, I now have to read the title of the seventh one. Cryptocurrencies in the New World Order.
Oh, bloody hell.
Perfect timing with this. Some conspiracy theorists believe that cryptocurrencies are a tool to usher in a new world order, where traditional forms of government and finance are eradicated, leading to a single global power structure that uses digital currency to control the populace. I mean, don't know what to do with that.
Do I even need to justify that with like any kind of response? It's
who's spearheading this?
Exactly. Like, I know, yes, Bohemian Grove is a thing. World leaders meet each other in secret ways all the time. That does not mean there is this new world order, global government mega conspiracy. We don't have lizard presidents and prime ministers. They're not all aliens. I think the world is far too complicated and complex for there to be as simple an answer as, there's one big spooky organization that runs everything.
Well, you are going to look a fool when Biden comes out as a gecko.
I'll wait for the day. I'll be waiting a long time.
That's the risk you've taken. Right, now we're going... Now it's getting deep. I actually had a conversation about this with a friend. Quantum computing threat is the title of this one. There are fears that quantum computing could break the cryptographic security on which blockchain relies. Some go further to suggest that certain organizations already possess this capability and can destroy cryptocurrencies anytime they choose to. So I'm going to jump in first because I had this conversation with a friend who works pretty deep in tech for a very, very big company, and he's pretty senior in that company. So he has conversations that are similar to this. He basically confirmed that cryptographic security is at risk from quantum computing, as everything is. I mean, we've seen the whole brute force password hacking. Quantum computing reduces things that would take 15,000 years down to like an hour or so. Just crazy, crazy stuff. Quantum computing is absolutely batshit. However, my counter argument to this, it could still ruin cryptocurrencies, I guess. But my point to him about this would be that if quantum computing can break it, surely it can make better security as well. Which he said is probably true, but he wasn't sure. He doesn't work in quantum computers. I don't imagine there's an organization that already has the capability to destroy all cryptocurrencies.
I'd be surprised. And on your point of security, I think as soon as quantum computing even becomes like, one lab somewhere has had half a femtosecond of a quantum computer working, quantum encryption is probably the first industry that will take off, because
necessarily
if it isn't, absolutely, if quantum computing is let out into the public domain with no security measures, then it's not just blockchain that's in trouble, it's everything online. Basically all of our digital existence as we know it, which obviously now includes like self-driving cars and all sorts of other things. It would basically mean every single password, every single form of encryption is meaningless. So
yeah, that'd be a difficult day.
So quantum computing is a future threat. It's on the, I think was it Sundar Pichai this week who said that we have to get AI right, and if we don't, then that's going to be like a massive threat. It's quantum computing is even beyond that. So
quantum AI.
It is. Oh Jesus! It is a huge threat, but it affects a lot more than just blockchain. It affects everything. I don't know when we'll see quantum computing become the norm per se.
I don't know if we'll see it in our life.
No, I mean it's come in and out of tech publications a bit over the last few years, probably because there isn't too much progress being made to my knowledge. I mean it's unfathomably complicated, so it will certainly change the world as we know it if and when it finally comes around, though.
Well, we're now moving to something we actually know a little bit more about: stablecoins and financial instability. So this one, number 9, is there's suspicion from some quarters that stablecoins, some quarters. Have they gone like pirate, or are they making anyway? That stablecoins, cryptocurrencies designed to minimize price volatility, are not backed by reserves as they claim, and are being used to manipulate crypto markets. So this really isn't a conspiracy theory in some ways.
No, because it happened.
It did happen
with
Tether.
USDC.
Exactly.
Oh, with Tether, yeah.
So it's happened more than once. I think this is Daily Coin that said when Tether first started releasing USD stablecoins, the company claimed that it had reserves that backed up all of its coins, but this turned out to be false. In 2019, Tether had to disclose that its coins were not 100% backed by dollar reserves. Instead, they were only 74% supported by dollar and short-term securities. When Tether was forced to make this disclosure in court, the company had to change its claim on its website that it had reserves for every USDT on the market. But that was 2019. Tether now claims to have that it can back up every USDT on the market with its reserves. This is Daily Coin still. However, that's a difficult claim to believe, or they said that before and we found out. I mean, if they could do 74%, presumably they could push that up. But
I'd be shocked if it was even 74% at the time, and I'd be very skeptical that they can back it 1-to-1 today. Just as a point of comparison, banks can't guarantee 1-to-1 that all the money they have on their books they have in actual currency reserves, because that's not how finance works.
But I guess the whole premise of a stablecoin is its stability.
Yes.
So
but
it's more
again,
but
it's pinned to a physical currency, which is inherently, I guess, unstable in the fact that real world currency is leveraged. It's not tied 1-to-1 with anything, so you're trying to tie this idea of stability and security on top of a currency which itself doesn't have gigantic fluctuations, but it's a lot more stable than cryptocurrency, obviously, but is not backed 1-to-1 with anything, and is yeah, it's leveraged. We're no longer in the days of having the gold standard, or we're in the days of modern money, where money is more so than ever just kind of a construct rather than something that's physical and tangible that you can hold. So yeah, I'd be surprised if there's any stablecoins that are truly backed one-to-one. If so, I'd question where the founders behind some of these stable coins have got their money from, because even if you have, I don't know, $1.1 billion worth market cap in a stable coin, that $1.1 million in hard currency must have come from somewhere. It hasn't just appeared out of thin air. You've either got VC money or something else is going on there. So
how much Tether is there?
That is a good question. Opening up coin market cap right now.
83.8 billion.
Yeah, I mean, are you telling me they actually have $84 billion of hard currency back? Yeah, it seems very far-fetched.
Where have they got that? Like, I don't know. Where is it? Like, what do they do?
Yeah, I mean, that's more
just
than
in the Barclays current account.
That's more than the gross domestic product of some top 50 world economies, I believe. Like, where is this money? I would love to know.
Yeah, I don't know. And realistically, do they need 100% one-to-one to remain stability? Because
no,
it's 100% of people are going to pull out at the same time and want to swap it back for fiat. So realistically, maybe you could have less than 100% and still be stable. You need to hit like critical mass, the amount that there's just no shot that no matter how bad it gets, they'd be able to tank you. I don't know. I guess we can't really know.
Yeah, we'd have to be we'd have to know a lot more than we do to get into the minutiae of how the global financial system works.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of this stuff, I mean, there's probably only like a handful of people in the world that can really unpack everything.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we'll move on to 10. I have 2 more after this. Actually, I have maybe 3. So this one's kind of quick because it's a little bit like the last one. Tech giants' involvement. Some theories assert that major tech companies are deeply involved in cryptocurrencies and blockchain and are secretly steering developments to eventually take over. I think you could actually put forward a case for Amazon on that, although they've made it sound more sinister than I intended. But Amazon has been quietly building and investing a lot in blockchain stuff across a pretty broad spectrum. They're involved with so many different companies. A lot of blockchains use Amazon products to run their networks. So I'd say Amazon is pretty deeply embedded, and that is, a major tech company.
Yeah.
So that's probably, I don't know. They mean it sinister in a sinister sense. That's the problem.
Yeah. I would imagine that a vast amount of the services that keep blockchain alive are run in some way through AWS. I know for a fact for Wax. that most of Wax's block producers use AWS.
Yeah.
And I would imagine for a lot of block producers and guilds, etc., on other chains, and probably some like Ethereum nodes, etc., probably just all run it through AWS. So, it's weird how once again we default back to a Web 2, Web 2 company and Web 2 solution to build this Web 3 world on top of. But yeah, I think if any company is well placed to take the blockchain industry into a new era, then Amazon would be it. I don't think that necessarily has to be malicious. I know that obviously Amazon is the big bad in a lot of people's eyes because it is such a huge company and there's a lot of question marks, a lot of controversies about it and all this. But they are as a company exerting more influence on our life. I mean, I use Amazon at least once a week, so
I mean, if you include all of Amazon's products, I interact with Amazon every day without question.
I think I probably do as well, actually.
Twitch,
Amazon
Prime, AWS,
Prime,
Yeah, they're far-reaching already. So it makes sense that if they see a technological shift that they want to be at the forefront, and they've got the infrastructure and the money to do it. So I feel like we've reinterpreted that conspiracy theory in a more reasonable way, but I guess there is some truth to it. Now, before I go on to my two favourites, which are just funny, well, I see them as funny. If I'm proved wrong, it'll be insane. There is one which I'd never heard of.
Okay.
And it comes in two parts. And this is on, we'll link it in the show notes. It's by Daily Coin. And so have you ever heard of Blockstream hobbled Bitcoin is the name of it?
No.
Does that make it? No, I'd never heard of it. Never, ever heard of it. So I've got a summary of it, which I'm just going to read the summary. So slow transaction speeds highlighted in Bitcoin's early days indicated scalability issues. The proposed solution was a hard fork to improve transaction speed and compete with traditional payment networks like Visa or MasterCard. The hard fork led to the creation of Bitcoin Cash, dividing the crypto community. Conspiracy theory suggests that Blockstream, who I'd never heard of, and apparently they're a major crypto firm, so perhaps they're a really early days one, deliberately opposed the hard fork to prevent Bitcoin's scalability. Allegedly, motive was to maintain control over the Bitcoin network and inhibit its mainstream adoption. Now, this is part one of two. So there's a second part to this this conspiracy theory. So the second part is that the theory suggests MasterCard and other companies gained influence over Bitcoin in 2015 by funding the Digital Currency Group. The Digital Currency Group founded or invested in several key crypto firms, including Blockstream. This connection purportedly allowed MasterCard to exercise indirect control over Bitcoin, particularly through Bitcoin Core. Allegedly, manipulation including intentionally degrading user experience and causing system downtimes. The supposed goal was to profit from the system's inefficiencies and prevent blockchain from becoming a globally dominant pay system. I'd never heard any of this, which is strange. I guess it was happening in 2015, so that predates both of us in being in the Web3 space.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that. I know they mentioned MasterCard, and I don't know much about that, but Visa, they also mentioned Visa. Visa's been very involved in crypto from an early point, and they've had accelerator programs, they've invested in stuff. I think they own a CryptoPunk, and they've had loads of like cryptocurrency projects and products. They have someone who's head of crypto who's on a podcast I listen to often. Feels a bit weird that they would manipulate it in that way, but don't know. I guess I don't know enough about the early days of Bitcoin's network troubles to really have a feel for it. What do you think?
No, I think I'd probably have to say the same, that I don't have the knowledge in the history, or quite frankly the knowledge about the core tech stack to kind of really assess whether this is a legitimate. Saying legitimate conspiracy theory is a bit of a misnomer, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me that let's say Bitcoin was made independent of governments and organizations, and it was just this unknown man or series of people around the world who came up with this system, that it wouldn't take too long for, if you are conspiratorially minded, for big tech and influential people and banks and other institutions to want to get their own skin in the game, I suppose, if they do view it as a threat. And I think if you believe that, then it's very easy to come to the conclusion that these outside bodies have been interfering in Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies ever since. Of course, nowadays where every cryptocurrency is on open markets, it's even easier for someone to influence the market if they have large enough resources to do so. Again, I don't know too much about Blockstream, so it's difficult for me to tell. But I think the core premise of the conspiracy theory is, again, one of those where I can understand why people would believe it. I'm obviously not going to put my hat either side of the fence, but it's one of the more reasonable takes, I suppose. And it seems like at least some thought's gone into it.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So John Nichols has confirmed that's perfectly true. Right, on to the last two, which are my favourites. The first, I don't expect you to say much to this in reply, just to be clear. Alien technology. On the far fringes, you'll find theories suggesting the blockchain technology did not originate from humans, but was actually introduced by extraterrestrial beings, as the technology is considered too advanced to be human-made. Now, on that last point, I just want to weigh in. I'm not a dev. I'm not, as much as I love technology, the creation of technology, the science, the deep coding, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. And yet, I've had to write technical documents, like technical writing as a job. I've been paid to do technical writing for blockchains, where I've had to explain how blockchains work, and even I can do it. So the suggestion that it's too advanced to be human made is just absolutely insane to me.
I mean, that's a very weird claim to make.
Very,
that somehow
very
aliens. I mean, presumably you have to come up with the aliens came up with the math for this, which is strange when maths is a human invention, basically.
Let's not give this bollocks any more time.
No,
because the next one's better.
Oh Christ!
This is the final one. This is the final one, and this is my favourite. And also, I didn't know this. I didn't know this happened. In 2018, Danish firm Bychip released an update to their subdermal chip, which allows people to store the XRP token in their body. For a lot of people, that was just neat tech, but for others, it was proof that they needed to realise that crypto was a vehicle for the antichrist. I thought I'd look at the screen for that for effect, so we can clip that later. So yeah, essentially, you could store Ripple tokens in your body using a Bychip, which I presume is just a cold wallet that lives under your skin. Which you could do anyway. I could make a little incision and stuff my ledger up there.
So Ripple was created by the devil, according to some.
Or at the very least, Bychip was. Either way, crypto is a vehicle for the Antichrist. If I ever write a book on crypto, that's going to be the name.
That's one of those conspiracy theories where I'd love to hear their train of thought. I'd love to see...
I don't think you would. I think it'd be 4 or 5 hours long, and it would be meandering around valleys of complete madness.
Sure, it'd be entertaining.
Some of it. If I could get the highlights.
Yes, the highlights would be entertaining. I'm not sure I want the full theory, but my God.
Crypto equals Antichrist.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar to those... was it back in the 70s or the 80s when you had these public access shows in the US why this guy is basically trying to prove that God exists by the fact that bananas are perfectly formed to the human hand.
I think it was like the 90s. I think it was even later than that.
Man.
And he's got his own wrapper, and look how perfectly. It's really quite embarrassing. That as far as that's when I think conspiracy theories, that's the level I was hoping for. Like some of these are very plausible. Some of them have a little bit of evidence. Some of them are a bit outlandish. But then that's just. I've never considered the two. I thought religion and crypto were like non-overlapping magisteria. I never thought there was any involvement between the two of them. But apparently there is, and some religions aren't that big on crypto.
Oh, well, I have to commend human creativity for coming up with some of these conspiracy theories because...
that's...
Yeah, that's... On the one hand, yes, they're ridiculous. On the other hand, wow, you have you've got a brain that come up with some of that stuff, so...
What is so offensive? Like, what goes against some of the religious doctrines? I mean, I presume it's Christianity because they talk about Antichrist. What about crypto, or Ripple, apparently, goes against... I mean, I guess we need a religious scholar to come on and...
I would imagine there's something in scripture about, harming the flesh or putting like foreign bodies or things into... So the idea of putting a subdermal implant in you at all must be, in some circles at least, somewhat blasphemous.
I find it hard to believe that some illiterate guy in a desert near Jerusalem was able to transcribe something about implanting devices in your. I mean, they've definitely had to fill in some blanks.
What I mean is, obviously, like with the people take the Bible, which is for all intents and purposes just a book, and try to apply technology that was around 2,000 years ago to today. So, there's some crazy people like, like Jesus predicted computers and things. It's like, no, not
well,
quite. But it's the religion's one of those funny parts of humanity. Not if anyone's listening to this podcast and they are, I was going to say, if anyone is religious and they're listening to this podcast, you believe what you like. It's got nothing to do with me, but it's one of those.
Crypto isn't the antichrist, and presumably, if they're listening, if you're religious and a crypto person, you don't think crypto is a vehicle for the antichrist, because he needed a monetary system, and fiat just wasn't cutting it.
My God,
his devious ways.
Well, you've got what's the Bitcoin version of passing around the collection plate?
I don't know.
I'm sure there's some kind of online church that's come up with
like some sort of evil solution. Bitcoin Patreon.
Here's our Bitcoin hash. You must all donate 0.01 after this sermon. So I don't know what the fuck I'm going on about now. Anyway,
we've gone. That's why I finished with it, because I wanted us to go fully off piste, and we did. So I consider that episode complete. That was one of the more fun episodes we've had.
It was an episode.
It was an episode.
I would love to hear, if you've made it to the end of this, what your thoughts are on some of these conspiracy theories down in the comments.
Or anything we missed.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you've got your own conspiracy theories about any part of cryptocurrency or blockchain or Web3, then please let us know. Maybe we'll discuss them on a future episode. Who knows?
Yeah. Or if you're a big enough nutter, we might get you on the pod in the hopes it will go viral. I can't guarantee anything, but
we'll see who leaves comments, I suppose.
We've alienated enough of our listenership now.
Yeah. So anyway, episode 83 of the Mint One podcast is in the books. Rob, where can we find you?
You can find me at tokengamer.io for the latest blockchain gaming, Web3, metaverse, AI, VR, tech, generally in gaming news. We've published some interesting interviews lately with Nicola Sebastiani. There we go. Nicola Sebastiani, who's just joined the Sandbox from... He's got quite an impressive CV, actually. He's been at PlayStation and Apple Arcade and some pretty big names. We've also got the things I kind of teased before. We've got some big stuff coming. Just keeps getting delayed. I have no control over it. They keep delaying the date we're going to publish it. But there's now two things coming. One should be at the end of October, so keep an eye out for that. And then at Token Gamer News on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. LinkedIn, same, just search Token Gamer. That's about it. John, where can people find you?
Terrific. For me personally, you can find me at Hydropowered, HYDROPWRD, on pretty much everything. Twitter is the best one for me. I've basically either just been retweeting the Mint One podcast posts or retweeting the stuff I am creating over at Top Splits, which is my new venture, I suppose you could call it, all about sim racing video games, all that good stuff. Talking a lot about Forza at the moment. The new WRC game is 3 weeks away. I can do maths. And yeah, I'll have more content on both of those every, twice a week, once a week. Depends how long these videos take to make. I've been working on the same video for about a week and a half at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's where you can find me.
Okay.
Great. Episode 83 is in the books. If you're on YouTube or just YouTube, actually, you can't really subscribe anywhere else. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know down in the comments what your favourite conspiracy theory is or what your thoughts are on the ones we discussed in this episode. If you're on Apple or Spotify, 5-star podcast review would be great. And you can follow us on Twitter at Mint1Pod. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. And we hope you tune in again next week.